brother. You know why?
Could more than one person have survived the Squid Game? Is there a chance that Detective Jun-ho is still alive? Stick around and you might just get an answer. Hello everyone and welcome to Comicsoup, the home of movies and entertainment facts and updates. Today we're going to be taking a look at some cool theories hidden in the popular Netflix series Squid Game. At first, they might look weird to you, but they will eventually make sense if you think more about it. So without further delay, here are some insane Squid Game theories that are actually cool. Number 10. GI-Hun's plane is rigged. In the final moments of the Squid Game series, GI-Hun decides against going to America to get his daughter, and instead stays in Korea to put an end to the games. In that moment, he refuses to board his plane against the frontman's request, and turns back to what was a thrilling ending. But could it be that his decision actually saved his life? This theory is really a long stretch, but hear me out. It is our belief that GI-Hun's plane was rigged to blow up the moment he boarded it. Why, you may ask? Well, the likelihood that this is true was foreshadowed in an earlier episode where someone said, rich or poor, in a plane crash, you're all the same. Although it is a long stretch, if this theory is true, then it actually changes a lot. First, it changes the entire meaning behind the frontman's insistence that GI-Hun gets on the plane for his own good. And second, it changes the whole dynamic of the Squid Game and that of the frontman.
Oh, look. Well, that means you were given the number one. And I'm the last.
Number 9. GI-Hun and Il-nam's numbers are symbolic. This particular theory is intriguing for a number of reasons. I mean, is it really a coincidence that the last player won the game? What's also strange is that Il-nam visited GI-Hun and convinced him to come back to the games in episode 2. Our belief in this regard is that Il-nam represents the origin of the game since he is the first number, and GI-Hun represents the end of the game since he is the last. Taking into account that GI-Hun claimed he was going to find a way to end the games in the final episode, we can boldly say that this theory does make sense. Either way, we'll have to wait to see how true it really is. Number 8. Every main character's death is foreshadowed. To be fair, out of all the others so far, this particular theory was perhaps the hardest to find, and here's why. In episode 2 of Squid Game, we got a glimpse into the lives of some of the other main characters in the show, but for some reason, we were only shown the bad side they experienced outside the games. Coincidence? Well, not quite. After watching the episode again, we found a couple of intriguing moments that dictated how these characters would die. First, there was Ddakji, who jumped off a bridge to escape from some debt collectors, and his death was, well, falling from a bridge. Next was Symbolic, who threatened to slit a smuggler's throat, and she of course had her own throat slit by Sang-woo in the end. Then we had Ali, who stole from his boss and left him for dead. He too met his end after Sang-woo stole from him and left him for dead. And then finally Sang-woo. Remember that scene of him brooding over his life choices in the bathtub with his tux on? Remember how he died? Soaked. Again wearing a tux. Still think it's a coincidence? Number 7. Jun-ho isn't actually dead. One of the saddest moments in the series was watching Jun-ho's apparent demise. But did he really die? Sure, he was shot with a live round and his body did fall into the ocean, but for some reason his body was never recovered. Well, we believe Jun-ho is still in fact alive for a couple of reasons. First of all, the frontman stopped his guards from shooting Jun-ho after the policeman used his last bullet. Second is the fact that they are both brothers who care for each other. And finally is the location that Jun-ho was shot. Before this episode, the frontman had killed 2 people, a guard and a worker, both of which were headshots, which means he knows how to use a gun. So why didn't he do the same for Jun-ho rather than shoot him in the arm? Let's just hope this theory is correct, because we would really like to hear In-ho's story. Number 6. The Ddakji card colors determined participants' roles. Who can forget such a trademark moment from the series? But I bet that you didn't notice that the colors of each Ddakji card was very similar to that of the workers and players. Whilst once was blue, which represents the players, the other was red for the workers. If you recall, GI-Hun was given the choice to pick his color, and he picked blue, which explains why he ended up as a player. If he had chosen red, odds are he could have ended up as a worker. This theory does make a lot of sense, especially considering the fact that the series never really explained the real origins of the workers. Number 5. The 3 main colors are symbolic. Squid Game is a series full of colors and childlike wonders for viewers to enjoy. From the childlike scenery in each game to the color environment outside the gaming area, we can definitely get a clear idea on what the producers had in mind. However, why are these 3 colors, magenta, cyan and yellow, used as the main costume colors for the show? Some fans believe this wasn't a coincidence and there is actually a meaning to these colors. Lucky for us, thanks to these beliefs, some theories have already popped up. The first claims that the color cyan was used to represent the players on the show. Magenta describes the players linked to the system or the games. And yellow means, well, money. Think about it. When cyan is mixed with yellow, it becomes green. Likewise, if a person loves money too much, they must become a player. Interestingly enough, the second theory is based on this belief as well, but this time it's based on the color used for the frontman. It claims that the frontman was a person, aka cyan, who turned into a player, aka green, and got money or yellow, which explains why his outfit is black. You know, black is a combination of all colors. There is some sense to this theory, as if you recall, all the finalists were given a pair of black tuxedos to wear. Just food for thought.
I just have to say that I'm a difficult man to please. I hope you won't disappoint me.
Number 4. The VIPs are the viewers. This particular theory is perhaps the most controversial out of the other ones on our list. For quite some time before their eventual introduction, the true story and nature of the VIPs was kept a mystery from everyone. It wasn't until much later that we got to see more insight into their stories. Il-nam describes them as rich individuals trying to find some fun in this otherwise boring world. But what if these rich individuals aren't the characters portrayed in the show, but rather us the viewers? Don't get me wrong, everyone knows this series is all fiction, but if people paid money to watch gladiators in action, I guess the theory does hold some ground? Also, a VIP said something about how nothing really beats the real thing up close, and we watched the show up close, so maybe? Of course, it's no fun being compared to such horrible VIPs, but it is a connection worth exploring. Number 3. Glass stepping stones. This one is unique because it entails the possibility that all contestants would have survived probably the most gruesome game in the series. To understand how this could be possible, let's understand the game and its rules. The game details are easy. There are a total of 36 stones, 18 of which are strong enough to hold a person. Step on the wrong one and you fall. However, there are 16 players, and if all 16 were to guess the wrong glass, they would all die in that game. So how exactly were the organizers expecting anyone to survive this challenge? Well, if you recall, the rules stated that all contestants must take off their shoes before stepping on the platform, but it never said anything about holding them in your hands. Are you seeing the picture now? There are 16 contestants, which means a total of 32 shoes. If these shoes were used to hit each glass to see which would break the easiest, they would have been able to decide 16 correct steps without a single death. Don't forget, GI-Hun was allowed to carry a marble across, so why wouldn't they be allowed to take their shoes as well? I know, this theory is a long stretch, but it does make a lot of sense.
My goodness, as a kid, I'm willing to bet you got spanked a lot.
How did you know?
My son did too. He was just like you, friend.
Number 2. Il-nam is GI-Hun's father? This theory is perhaps the most mind-blowing of them all. According to fans, there is a possibility that Il-nam might be GI-Hun's father. 2 scenes in particular from the show backs up this theory as well. The first was when Il-nam commented that he has a son who used to be spanked a lot, just like GI-Hun as a kid. If you find it hard to believe, then the second scene should be more persuasive. It happens in episode 6 when Il-nam describes his neighborhood to GI-Hun, who, coincidentally, grew up in a similar place as well. We are aware that Il-nam created the games just to relieve some of his childhood moments, but odds are good he probably created the competition to find his son, and he wants GI-Hun to continue the tradition in his place as head of the games. Il-nam also makes mention of how he wanted to buy his son a present for his birthday. Perhaps he wanted to give GI-Hun the gift of life. Also, don't forget that out of all the competitors, Il-nam chose to convince only GI-Hun to join the games in episode 2. I know, all of these sound very suspicious, but this theory could have lots of implications about the true origin of the competition itself.
Who are you bidding on this time?
96.
What's your reason?
Well, if I can't do 69, I'll try 96.
Number 1. It could be an international competition. What are the odds that such a game could happen on a global scale? Well, it's pretty high, and for good reason. Recall that 2 VIPs did point out the likelihood that these games had happened elsewhere, with one saying, "The games this edition have been amazing," and the other stating how the contest in Korea was the best so far, possibly referring to the current Squid Games. There's also the fact that these supposed VIPs and the host Il-nam are all a mix of multiple nationalities and races. These facts are all convincing enough for us to believe in the possibility that the games do happen internationally. If these VIPs are all as rich as Il-nam claims, I doubt he was the only host. In fact, there is the possibility that each VIP takes turns hosting the games in their own countries, which explains why they all referred to Il-nam as the host. Thinking about the fact that the Squid Game could operate on a global scale is of course hard to believe, but hey, given the amount of money those VIPs had, it's not impossible. And that's our video, guys. Do you agree with our list? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and want to see more from us. Peace out!